the Qing dynasty. This is the first dynasty that really unified China. So this is no longer a feudal system that has local laws and they do their own things. There is now one emperor who decides everything. He says, I will make this decision and the whole country has to follow. So this is called the first emperor or the founding emperor, the Huangdi. And he evaluated himself saying, myself, 功盖三皇, 得过五帝. So he is referring to the three ancient emperors and the five emperors. They use different terms, Huang and Di. So he gave himself the title, which is the combination of these two titles, Huangdi, that gave the later Chinese term for emperor, Huangdi, which is, from this and this, referring to the ancient leaders. And he said, I have achievements overshadowing the three kings, virtues surpassing five emperors. I'm much better than the ancient kings. Well, so much for the vanity, but at least let's look at what he did. So he really unified China. We say, 书同文，车同轨. From that day on, he said, we will write the same words and drive on the same tracks. Every local kingdom has a different standard. They have slightly different writing or completely different writing. And they have different measurements, so the tracks on which they drive the chariot have different sizes. So if you go to another country, maybe you enter, okay, now the track is different. I have to change my vehicle. It's completely inconvenient. He said, let's unify all the standards. So now we will have the same money, right? Standardize the currency and all the measurements. Weight will be the same. Length will be the same. All the money will be the same. All the writing will be the same. Communication is the same. If you look at this picture, this is like the variety of money in the warring states. Some of them look at like small knives, and there are some other looking like different shapes, and there's the round one. In the end, yes?
So is this the first time real unification took place?
Unification in the sense that the control is now centralized, right? So the decision making is from the emperor and his court, and everyone has to follow. Before this time, it was more like a feudal system, right? So you would have a local king, which in principle serves the emperor or the heavenly son, right? So they should listen to the 𝐤𝐧𝐻, but they have a lot of control in their own kingdom. They also have their own writing, their own money, everything. This is,
Also in a cultural way?
Indeed, yes, in a cultural way, because, and this is a very important point, that they unified the writing, because the different kingdoms had different writings, and it is actually from this time, now the writing is all the same. And if you go to different regions in China, you will realize that the local dialect can be very different. Some of them you have no chance to understand, but it is because of locking to this writing, the same writing system, that the different local languages, they actually converged. The different clans, they have different culture, different language. They all converge because they are locked in with this writing system. They all became the same language. And with this, we have records and stories preserved to this day. And if you look at the quotes I gave earlier and later on in the class, these are written, a lot of them are written maybe like 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. We can read them today. Directly, there's no decoding or anything. You can read the text and you know what it means. So this unification really shaped China.
So the writing from that point on did change anymore?
It did change, yes. So there are changes, and you can compare them. But you would have slightly different forms. Like for certain characters, you see it was written in a different shape then compared to now. But basically, it remained the same word, right? Just the writing may be changed over time. But you can find the correspondence. It is that word, and all the things basically recorded in that time, we can understand now. But he did a lot more, right? He did a lot more. Again, when he unified all other 6 kingdoms, he said, we will abolish feudalism, we will implement counties. These are the units of government that will be directly responsible to the emperor. I will send people. I will say, I assign you to this region, and you will answer to me only. They collected all weapons, that's said, so basically all the metal from all over the country. They forged 12 huge statues in the capital with those metal. So, in the end, there was like no metal left. There's basically all the metal are in those 12 statues. And they started to build the Great Wall. We already saw Great Wall in the previous slide. Partly because all the northern kingdoms, they started to build walls because they were invaded by the northern nomads. And he completely connected all these walls to form a connected defense. Basically, now there's no opening that people can come in through. And also, of course, the driving paths. Now, all of the tracks are the same size. So we will use standardized chariots and the standardized paths. So there's the track that they built to really far away. So this is like the highway at that time. So if they send the chariot, they can go out really fast and send information. Also, he built himself a huge tomb, which is still not open now. I mean, people dare not to open it because we might not have the technology to preserve everything. Also, a very important incident was 𝐸𝐸 So, in fact, in the court, people suggested, my lord, should we consider going back to the feudal system? And then he was not happy. How can people suggest me? How can people question my decisions? There should be no more philosophy, no more debates. I'm going to make decisions. So they said, and following the suggestion by Li Si, they are going to burn the books. They are really practical in the sense that let's keep all the books for farming and engineering, building, all the philosophy, all the discussion about how to do things, all the debates. Let's burn them all. Now, luckily, we have a lot of things preserved, but we also lost a lot. And the next year, after that decision, they also buried scholars because he wants no challenge. So we can see, of course, 𝐸𝐸 this term later on became the symbol of his really cruel rule over the country. He basically tortured the people because he wants to be the one who makes all the decisions. He is greater than all the ancient kings. He is the one. No one should say otherwise. And he is so ambitious that he started to build all the great constructions. This burdened the people severely, and people starved or worked to death. And of course, this led to the fall of the kingdom really fast. The Qing dynasty only had 2 generations. It was not long after his son took over, then it was overthrown.